There's one other absurd thing that happened just yesterday that I think it's important for us to note. The president issued an extraordinary order directing the Justice Department to investigate Chris Krebs, someone I know, and I know many of this committee know, who had a very important job during the Trump administration. He was in charge of making sure that our elections were safe, that they weren't affected by foreign adversaries. He did a very good job during that time. I remember working with him in a nonpartisan basis. He'd been appointed by a Republican president. This is, of course, in the wake of what had been attempted in 2020, if people remember, with the Russians trying to get into election infrastructure. So here he comes in charge. He did his job. He worked with all different agencies and did his job to protect those elections. And so now, out of the blue, many, many years later, he gets fired by President Trump after the election last time, right? He gets fired by President Trump, and he then has been out there as a private citizen. So now the president has directed the Justice Department to investigate him, claiming that he falsely and baselessly denied that the 2020 election was rigged and stolen. In fact, Trump's own attorney general at the time, William Barr, later testified in a deposition, I believe, that election was not stolen. And he had made many comments to the fact that the 2020 election, there was nothing wrong with the 2020 election, something Chris Krebs had said. I remember after the election, he said it was one of the safest elections in history in terms of foreign interference. So let's get this straight. Here's a guy doing his job, appointed by President Trump, does his job, acts in a nonpartisan basis, makes sure elections are safe, comes out after the election, just like the Attorney General for President Trump, and says the elections were fine, they weren't rigged, there was no interference. He gets fired for it. Okay, I think maybe that's enough. He gets fired for it. But now the president wants the Department of Justice to launch an investigation because Chris Krebs told the truth that the 2020's election infrastructure was secure. I just want to point out for the record that that's wrong. It's chilling. And this is what we have come to expect from this president. But our job is oversight. Our job is to step in when we think people are actually violating the Constitution or the Justice Department is not doing their jobs and is not keeping with the law.